So President Obama was giving a keynote address this week at an award ceremony, and he weighed in on the issue of political correctness. Now, recently, he lashed out at what's happening on college campuses, and he lamented the, quote, shutdown of debate. So that was an interesting story. We covered it at the time, and I gave him credit because I said, oh, what he's doing is he's standing up against, what's often referred to as the authoritarian left, and what's referred to as, in a derisive way, SJWs, social justice warriors. I largely agreed with him on that, because it is true that when, you have movements where people talk about, I need a safe space, and, they don't want to critique, they don't want to have an argument in the realm of ideas on a college campus. Well, I say, well, you missed the whole point of an education system. You're supposed to be challenged. You're supposed to debate the ideas. Safe space is your dorm room. You shouldn't, you try to protect yourself from being challenged intellectually anywhere else on campus. Okay, so I agree with him on that. I agree, people often talk about the words you're not allowed to say. Oh, you're triggering me with, if you say America is a meritocracy, that's a microaggression, and you need to not fucking say that. Well, look, I don't agree. I don't think America is a meritocracy. I've made detailed arguments as to why I think it's factual that it's not a meritocracy. But that doesn't mean that if somebody else says it, that I call it a microaggression or say they're triggering me, and I shut down debate and say you're not even allowed to say that. That's just childish. And actually, if anything, it makes you look like you have the weaker argument when you don't. Because when your response is to sidestep the issue and say, you can't say that, well, then call what it is, you're a little bitch, okay? You don't want to have the conversation. So I agree with Obama when he talks about, oh, come on, the shutdown of debate on college campuses, that's a problem, that's not right. Well, now he came out and he's giving the other half of the picture, okay? He says, political correctness is increasingly an excuse to say offensive things or to lie. Now, that's actually similar to the line that I've been using. A line which, by the way, fucking Marco Rubio stole. Now, to be fair to Marco Rubio, I don't think he actually heard me say it, and then he took it after he heard me say it. I just think somebody in his campaign came up with it, or he came up with it, but I'm the one who clearly used it first, as I've been using it for probably over a year now. I like to say that some people think they're being politically incorrect, but they're just being incorrect. There's a difference. And this is what he's trying to get at here. Now, I actually would have worded it differently if I were him, because he said political correctness is increasingly an excuse to say offensive things or to lie. I would say take out the offensive part, because I don't care about offense. It's one of those things where, oh, I'm so offended. Well, it depends. The thing you're offended by, is it true and you don't like it and then you're offended? Or is it not true and you're offended by how untrue it is? Because if it's the former, well, I don't care, So you can say, I'm offended by, but if it's true, piss off. I don't care about your offense. Shove it up your ass. So I wouldn't have said the offensive part, but I do think he's right when he says political correctness is increasingly an excuse to lie or to say things that are flat out not true. Case in point, Donald Trump and Coulter. They're the two perfect examples. Ann Coulter loves to say bombastic things and loves to agree with Trump. Let's kick out all the immigrants. Let's ban all Muslim immigrants from coming to the country. And then when you say, hey, you might be a bigot, they go, oh my God, you're just being politically correct. No, I'm being correct. If you say, let's kick out all undocumented immigrants, when the overwhelming majority of them are working hard, they're good people, they're not criminals, well, then there's got to be a reason why you're saying to kick them out. And that reason may be tied to their demographic makeup. When you say with Muslims, ban all of them from entering the country, well, then you're saying, I'm going to treat Sufi Muslims, I'm going to treat Ahmadi Muslims, I'm going to treat Baha'i, I'm going to treat all the different overtly peaceful, sects of Islam as just as bad as Salafi jihadists. Well, then you are a bigot, because you're saying they're all the same. I am going to generalize, keep them all out. So they think they're keeping it real. They think they're being politically incorrect, but they're just incorrect. It's like when Trump says, we got to go after the families of ISIS in the Middle East. Okay, no, Donald, that's not politically incorrect. That's incorrect. You want to massacre civilians. That's terrorism. You want to purposefully target civilians. That's a war crime. That's a war crime. But Ann Coulter and Donald Trump are like, I'm just keeping it real. No, you're not. You're keeping it stupid. You're keeping it cretinous and wretched and odious. And no decent American should look at that and say, oh yeah, I'm with that because he's telling it like it is. That's not telling you like it is. That's being a fucking savage. It's being a barbarian. That's saying I will counter ISIS by being almost exactly like them. Instead of beheading you, I'll just shoot a Scud missile at your face. Oh, well, how enlightened you are. So I think Obama's actually right on both counts here. He's right about the shutdown of debate on college campuses and how that's a problem and how the authoritarian left is a real thing. And, we should stand up to that. But he's also right that oftentimes when right-wingers invoke, you're being politically correct. No, we're not being politically correct. We're being correct when we say certain things, talk about policy issues, talk about morality and ethics. And we need to be able to be balanced in that. And unfortunately, today, I see a lot of polarization. So you're either in the crowd that there's no such thing as political correctness and there's no such thing as the authoritarian left at all and there's nothing to talk about here, or you're in the crowd of, the biggest problem in the world is political correctness and I will use that as an excuse to be a right-wing prick. Well, both sides are wrong there and there's a rational middle ground and I actually think President Obama hit the nail on the head.